and welcome to Impact 2025, our continuing conversation where we talk about all different types of topics, current events, race, religion, everything that you can think of. We talk about all different types of topics here. And this is a participatory activity. You can participate by typing your questions and your comments into the comment section. So please feel free to join us in the conversation. Before we start, we like to always highlight the other offerings that we have here on YouTube, Facebook, or in person. On Thursdays, every Thursday at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we have Thursday Thirst, which is a weekly Bible study. Please join us for that. Um, we have on Sundays, we have worship service, which is at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. That's YouTube, Facebook, website, however you want to catch it, and also in person. So if you're looking at the address on the screen, please feel free to join us in person if you're in the area. And then on Tuesdays, we have at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time as well, a time of prayer from 7 to 7:45. And so please feel free to join us for that. That is a time where anyone in the ministry everyone in the ministry is praying around the same time, and not the whole entire time, but just sometime between 7 and 7:45. Please join us in a time of prayer. And of course, Impact 2025, which you are looking at right now. From time to time, we've had issues when it comes to our feed. You can still hear, but what you see may be different from what may not show me actively moving. So we'll hop right into the topic for today. Before we do, we want to make a little acknowledgement. As we've been watching from time to time, we've been looking at what's been going on across the world, seeing what's going on in Ukraine and Russia, seeing what's going on in Israel. And we had a ceasefire in Israel between Israel and Hamas. And yesterday, depending on what time of day you're looking at it, everything has started kick back up. So they went from a ceasefire with no bombs being shot across, and all of a sudden, bombs shot across 400 people in Palestinians, 400 people, 200 to 400 people, depending on who you listen to as your source, died. And so this will be a topic that we're going to have to revisit, unfortunately, as people may have thought that we were going to wind down. It's something that we may have to be revisiting again. And that, in light of everything that's going on, it's just another conversation about our responsibility as people in the United States and our responsibility as Christians to other people across the world, and even our perspective of how we look at other people across the world. And so that we will be getting into that going forward. So I just wanted to make sure we touched on that because of the seriousness of that situation. Now, what we are talking about today, though, is just a tad bit, not even a tad bit. It's different. Uh, right now, on um, Netflix, there is a new video, a new documentary or you know documentary type thing. So if you're a person that likes documentaries, you can go out there and watch this one. And this one in particular, I'm not going to give you its name, but you can go out and kind of search because there's been news about it. It talks about aliens. It talks about the government, and the government has had for over 80 years known the existence of aliens and have been trying to reproduce this technology. And so this one is a little bit different than normal, alien documentaries because you just got just some junk on there, and you really don't have any solid information. But this one is supposed to. This one has government officials. It has politicians they have quoting on there. It has a lot of people who worked in the government who are quoting and saying yes, there's some documentation. There's some people in other parts of the government in the defense and everything like that. And so what this documentary does over the course of the time is build in this argument or build in this narrative where it tries to convince you and help you to understand that not only are there aliens, the government has confirmation of aliens and has had it for over 80 years. Now, whether or not you want to believe that, that's not my thing here to try to convince one way or the other. whether it's true or not. But I mean, you have some credible people in there. I don't want to say that this person is credible, but you have the current Secretary of State on there talking about the fact that um, they've identified some UFOs um, that it's a concern. And when they say UFOs, it just means unidentified object. It doesn't mean alien, but it's there's some things flying around that they don't know where they are. They don't know where they come from, and it's something that they need to address. Now, again, if you want to believe that, fine. If you don't want to believe that, fine. The discussion point, though, is because of what kind of society that we're in, because of the time that we're in, we as individuals need to wrestle with these issues. We need to be able to address these issues because young people, people who love the internet, people who love these documentaries, um, it really affects them and it really affects their lives, and then they're gonna have questions about it. So we need to wrestle with these issues so that you don't wait till somebody asks you so that you can have an opinion. You need to have your opinion developed before somebody asks you. And so the topic of today and the question of today is, how do we as Christians address the possibility of aliens? Like, let's not laugh it off and joke it off, but more so, how do we address that? How does that deal with your faith individually? And then furthermore, how do you deal with somebody who may be thinking along those lines of, hey, how can God be real if there's aliens? And so what is the conversation and the response that needs to be there? And is that, I always believe that is a conversation that needs to be had, where is it? In the past, people just, again, they just laugh it off or just brush it off. But is that a legitimate conversation? Because for some reason, if this documentary does what some others have, it's going to light a fire under certain people. There was a documentary a couple of years back that showed about food, and it specifically showed how animals were used to produce food. Now, nothing new. People have been to farms. You know what it looks like. But this documentary, it showed it, and it showed it in such a graphic manner that it sparked a worldwide, and I'm not exaggerating, a worldwide move towards veganism. There's a lot of people who say, well, I can't ever drink milk again, or I can't ever eat chicken again, or I can't ever eat beef again, because they saw what was going on in these documentaries. And so, as silly as that was to me, and people switching how they live based on the food documentary, that's the same thing that can happen sometimes with these other documentaries. So if there's a documentary about alien life, how do we address that as Christians? What do we think? And so that's what the topic is. And I know for some people that's you just don't want to go there. It's not something to go. But when we start having people ask these questions, we need to be prepared. And so, number one, the first thing, what does that mean for your faith? Does that change anything if all of a sudden we find out that there's life on other planets? And does that change anything for you? Does that shake your faith at all? Now, when you sit back and you really look at it, and I was looking through it, there's different people who have different opinions. Some people swear that there's references to alien life in the Bible. When you look at it, it's really, I don't know. I don't see it, but they swear that there's references there, and then there's others that swear that there's not. And so either way that you look at it, does that shake your faith? Was there anything that said that this was the only planet, this is the only place, this is the only place where there's life and all of this kind of stuff? Does that change anything? Can God, is your God just here for Earth? Or is God for everything? And again, I know that this is one of those crazy lanes, but I think this is a conversation that we're going to have. We may have to have, as documentaries go on like this. But that's the first initial question: is does that change anything about your faith? Does that change anything about what you believe in your relationship with God? Because again, if your God is limited to Earth, well, then you're definitely going to have a problem. if it's God is everything, then I think you'll be okay. So that's the first one. What does it do to your faith? Number two, though, is not only what it does to your faith, what does that mean for how we deal with others? Does that change anything about how we deal with others? You we have our guidance of how we're supposed to treat one another, and we have a hard enough time with how we treat our neighbors here. We have a hard enough time with how we're supposed to treat one another, knowing that there's other people and other people out there, or other things out there, or other life forms out there. Does that change how you address who is your neighbor, who is the person that you, um, who is the person that you're supposed to treat as you want to be treated? Does that change your perspective on what life is and the definition of life? Now, for a lot of people, I think the answer should clearly be no. But for some, it'll shake them. For some people, it'll shake the whole thing of, well, it was only talking to, well, now that there's other life, then really, when God is talking about the neighbors, he's only talking about specifically my neighbor, specifically the person that's right next to me, or specifically the person who acts just like me, or is another Christian just like me. Or does it then transcend and it still means everyone? The third question, and I think this one probably is just most important. What do we say to others when they ask that question? So the first one is we have to get right, kind of with ourselves. Or, how do you feel about it personally? Second one is how do you then treat other people? Does that change anything about the relationships with other people? But third, I think it's what is the manner? What are the words? What are you going to say if someone asks you that question? So if we're sitting there, somebody new to the church, sitting there, somebody wrestling with their faith, sitting there, somebody who just watched the documentary, and they turn to you and they say, hey, Christian person, you're a believer, you go to church. What's up with these aliens? Now, I think that's may not happen. But I don't think that's something that should catch you off guard and be the first time you think about it. I honestly think that is something, and that's what we're talking about today, that is something that you should have already thought about. And already thought about what the answer is. Now, if you were somebody who went door to door evangelizing, I'm pretty sure that kind of question would have came across already. And a prepared response would be right there. But for most of us who are not doing that on a daily basis, what is our prepared response? What is, not even prepared response, what is our response? What do you truly feel? Now, first thing is, for all of us there, maybe we can talk about it a little bit more in church. I don't know how many of you had a meeting or a Bible study or any kind of interaction with other church members where you say, oh, what's up with this alien thing? And if you really do have some questions, I think discussing it even with leadership in the church and asking, all right, well, what is our position, or how do we look at this? What do we say when people ask us about this? So if you don't want to think about it and wrestle with it on your own accord, ask others about what they think about that position. Because again, if someone asks you, you need to be prepared. Especially younger people, kids. Those are the people who are going to be looking at these documentaries. That's what it really hit home when the vegan movement with the documentaries that were coming through Netflix and Stop Drinking Milk. It was really a lot of younger folk who, of course, they didn't grow up on farms or anything like that. Were just so surprised that you had to kill animals and that it wasn't fun for the animals to be able to make food. But it'll be a lot of younger people, and so there's a realistic chance that if you're dealing with young folk, whether it be in your family or again in the church, somebody's going to ask you that question: How do you address it? And so, if you can't address it yourself, how does the church address it? How does the ministry address it? Or do you just ignore it? Sometimes people say just ignoring things is just terrible. You just don't ignore stuff. I think this one, though, there is a possibility of, what we've historically done, what church has historically done, is basically just laughed it off and kept it moving. Like, yeah, whatever, it's not real, and just keep it moving. And that may be the right response, to continue to go ahead and keep it like that until you show me some hardcore facts, until we see uh, some little green men or whatever we want to see, whatever the term is, until it happens in our face. Why address it? You know, yeah, ain't no need to. So we can look at it like that. I don't know whether or not that's the approach that you want to do, but that is a possibility. Oh, you have a comment. The word of God is clear on how we are to deal with aliens. Deuteronomy 10:19. You shall also love the stranger, for you were strangers. Chapter 24:14. You shall not withhold the wages of poor and needy laborers, whether other Israelites or aliens who reside in your land in one of your towns. I chuckled because this is the this is the this is the one that I usually when I'm if I'm having a conversation or disagreement with someone, this is where I'll go to when I'm talking about the Bible. It's very clear on how we should treat illegal aliens, how we should treat people who come into the country illegally or legally, but anyone who comes into the country. And so, yes, it includes, I guess, because in many translations, it definitely includes the word alien. So, yeah, it can, whether it be illegal aliens because they're aliens that came from another country, it could be aliens that come from another planet. And that brings up the bigger issue. If we can't even treat people who, the only difference between us is maybe a language and skin color. Might be a little darker than ours or a little lighter than ours. If we can't treat them with the level of respect, I know that somebody that come from another place, another planet, ooh, I don't know what kind of way we're gonna treat them. But the word of God, you're right here. The word of God is clear. Whatever your definition of alien is, we should be treating everyone with the proper respect. We should be treating everyone. And so I think that is clear, especially when you're looking at the word of God, it's clear. And so, it would be a funny thing if there were, aliens out here. Because I think they would be shocked at how we would treat, well, maybe not. And they would not want to stick around if they see how we treat one another. If we treat illegal aliens, how poorly we treat them, then I don't think we're going to treat aliens from another world any better. We'll probably treat them worse. I would be up out of here. Y'all not treat each other good. So I think that hits it. That hits it. I think that the concern would be there of, again, how we would want to treat one another, how we want to treat anyone else. All right, but yeah. So again, I think and this is a weird topic. I know a lot of people are like, this is just that craziness, but these are the kind of things that people are going to wrestle with. These are the kind of things when you start to have these documentaries, which are powerful, especially when you talk about Netflix, the number one streaming platform, who does documentaries that millions amongst millions of people see. That we need to be prepared in our thought process so that we're not caught off guard. We need to be prepared in our thought process so that we don't have to question ourselves. Don't question yourselves because you backed into a corner. Question what you think, what you believe right now, so that you can know. And so I encourage, again, number one, which is your faith. Examine your faith. Examine how you feel about it. Examine what you think is safe. Number two, examine how we're supposed to treat others as a result of it. As the scripture was said in Deuteronomy, it was very clear that we need to treat strangers, how we should treat strangers, how we should treat illegal aliens. And then number three, be prepared for when, if someone asks that question. What is your response? And I think that those three things will have us all prepared if someone wants to talk about it. And then don't. And again, you have that option, I think, to just brush everything off. But I don't think that that's necessarily the right option unless you're just totally not comfortable. But if you are, we should be able to have that conversation. Now, and then we're pretty much done. I'll tell you for me. This is how it goes for me. This is me. Whether there's aliens or not, I believe that God is not just for Earth. God is for everything. Whether there's aliens or not, that does not change anything about my faith. That does not change anything about how I treat others. We're supposed to love one another, treat them as we want ourselves treated. And that's the way, that's why that guides my thoughts on when it comes to immigration, illegal aliens, or otherworldly aliens. We have a responsibility to how we're supposed to treat others, treat all of God's creation. And God's creation is not just this creation, it is everything. As people used to say back in the day, the stars and the moon and the skies and blah, 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 blah. Yes, that's other planets, everything, the whole entire, galaxy, space, everything. God created everything. And so our responsibility is not just here, it extends beyond here. And so that's my response. It doesn't change anything. If we saw that there was aliens tomorrow, the Bible is just as valid today as it would be tomorrow. And so that's just my thought process. But I think that all of us need to have our thought processes together and know what we're going to say. All right. Now that's it for today. Now, just as to highlight Hanover Public Schools, we'll honor the students who integrated the Hanover schools. Part of the group is people who are related to me, my aunts, Thompson, part of my family. They will be honored with a plaque. So if for anyone in Virginia or anywhere in Virginia, they had in schools in Hanover, they were integrated not that long ago when you really think about it. And so we're going to honor. They're honoring the people who integrated the school. So that's a Black history moment, even though we're out of February because Black history is all the time. That's a Black history moment in my family, where my aunts were able to integrate the schools at the guidance of their parents, and really go through tough situations. And so I just want to highlight that and make sure people know Hanover Public Schools. Arlene Thompson, Harriet Thompson, are two of the greats who will be honored with plaques. Here we go. Got another comment. We have a responsibility and a mandate to take care of God's creation. Unfortunately, we don't do a very good job of taking care of God's creation. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, I believe when it says God's creation, that is not just here. That extends beyond here. When our technology starts to grow, where we're able to go to other planets, and we're already able to go to space, even if we go to the moon, our responsibility is still there. The same responsibilities we have here, we have up there, or out there, is to take care of God's creation, and all of this is His creation. And so I think that if truly to be a Christian, if we understand what Christianity is, it's not a conditional thing. We don't get to just be like, all right, we're a Christian, in this area code. Or if I go to another country, I don't got to act a Christian, I can act a fool. Or if I go to if I get up out of this world and I get up out to the moon, I can act a fool. If I'm in space, no rules. No, I think that Christianity goes everywhere with you. You become a Christian. Christianity is not a conditional thing that you're able to, do within certain settings. I think it has to be who you are. And if we acted like, I think if some others of us acted like that, and we didn't have that conditional Christianity, then things would be different. Because we would have to act accordingly all the time. That would have to be who we are. It wouldn't be a part-time job like it is for some, unfortunately. So yeah, that's a really good comment, because we have to remind ourselves that we have that responsibility. That's another thing to say. If someone asks that question about aliens and how we're supposed to treat one another. All right, that's it. That's all we got. I want to remind people again about on Thursday. On this Thursday, please join us for Thursday, our weekly Bible study. It's really good to study the Bible, and this is a really good explanation or I'll say a deep dive into the Word. It's not even a shallow look at it. It's a deep dive into the Word so that we will know what our responsibilities are as Christians and how we should be acting. And then on Sunday at 10 o'clock, we have worship. And then, of course, on Tuesdays at 7 to 7:45, we have a time of prayer. Please join us for that as well. And next week, please join us for Impact 2025, where we will discuss these issues. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for all the comments, and we'll see you next week.